Life podcast. And this is going to be live streaming directly onto YouTube as well. That's normally how we like to do it. I know you can see it's just me, but life has been incredibly wonderful this summer and we've been really busy. So it's been hard for Dan and I to find the time to sit down and record. But I've been doing a lot of incredible writing lately, like Spirit's just been coming through. And I'm going to share some of that with you over these next couple of podcasts because there's some big stuff brewing. And I hope that you like it. Like I said, I'm going to read and I'll talk and interject otherwise. We'll see how long these go. But if you're ever interested, you could always visit the illuminateunschool.com website, and all the blog posts are going to be posted there. I'm also on Substack as well as on Medium. And so, this first article is sometimes it takes years to step into recovery, and that's okay, right? And it's just the truth. So if you've ever asked yourself why I didn't get sober sooner, you're not alone. Maybe you've tried cutting back. Maybe you've even stopped for a while. Maybe you spiraled and then pulled it back together only to spiral again. And maybe part of you still wonders if you ever addicted enough to count it. And I want to tell you something that I wish someone had told me back like years ago, and that recovery doesn't have a deadline, right? There's no really one way to have this happen, no one way to step into it. And the moment that you start questioning your relationship with alcohol or any other substance or behavior is the moment the journey has begun. Even if it takes you years to truly change that relationship, it still began the moment you became curious about whether or not you had a problem or whether or not a change would benefit you. That's not failure. Taking years is not failure, right? It's a process. And in magic, the process is sacred. It's part of the journey. It's all of the things that we learn, all of the things that we go through, it's part of that journey. And this all came up because, back when I had written this article, I had been reflecting on this memory that had popped up in Facebook. And, I jump onto Facebook a couple of times a week for, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time. And it just so happened that I caught that I had memories sitting there. And, I'm not going to lie, that's one of the reasons that I like Facebook. I get to go back and see the memories and see some of the cool things that I've done and miss some of the people that I used to have in my life. And it was very curious to me that there was a post there from over 10 years ago. It was around Lent in 2014. And I announced to my Facebook group, family or followers, or, at that point, I don't think you had followers, but I had announced to those folks that I were friends with on Facebook that I was giving up alcohol for Lent. I had no memory of writing that. But in that moment, as I was looking at it and reading and bearing witness to that memory, Spirit whispered, "You knew even back then." That was the moment that I started to question my relationship with alcohol. It may have even happened before that, but that was literally the documented moment that I started to question that relationship I had with alcohol. And this time is where I started to reflect on the years that I had spent trying to moderate, right? And Dan and I have talked a lot about this. I would only drink wine. I would only drink on the weekends. It would be only a shot and a beer. I would make these, false promises, so to speak, to myself. And the ones that I broke, I would just contemplate the next day whether I would try again or if I'd try a different one. I mean, we're talking years. So I didn't step into recovery until 2019. So that's 5 years that it took, let alone to think how many other times prior to that I had started to contemplate or moderate in some way, shape, or form, right? I wasn't in recovery yet, but I had started my recovery journey. Spirit was preparing me and helping me understand that I was reaching for something different. And this is why I do not judge. I don't judge how anybody else's recovery journey is or how long it may take. I know there are folks that have come around in my circle in the last 5 years that may not even talk to me anymore because, I put a mirror up. It's okay. They'll find their way back to me if that time's right, if spirit needs them to, wants them to, right? But what makes recovery different for us witches is that in traditional recovery programs like AA, NA, even like I would imagine, and I've never been in, but Smart Recovery or Dharma Recovery, is they weren't necessarily built for a person just like me. Okay. And back then, I was denying. I was talking to my therapist a bit about, my impact of energy and things of that nature, but never to the point that I understand it here, now, and today, right? I'm a person who feels energy. I hear spirit, right? I practice magic. I understand what my shadows are, right? Even back then, I knew and understood what a shadow was, even though I hadn't explored all of them that I've discovered or, integrated since I stepped into recovery. And I have always, though, this is, interesting now that I'm thinking about it and kind of reading and sharing this article with it. I've always been an individual that has served the world through my gifts. A lot of times I was doing this in the corporate space. And that might sound interesting to you, right? Yes, I would help these businesses with their marketing and technology, but I often found myself in mentorship or leadership roles. And so I would be able to sit and have these beautiful conversations with human beings that just wanted to be seen and validated, right? When my father ended in the hospital because of his own drinking in 2017, it's when I really started to think more about, am I even going to be able to find a way? Am I going to be able to, right? And I've just realized that the sober witch life, this movement, this new way of being in recovery can fit me. Like I've created a path that aligns with me as the witch that I am. Right? It's incredibly sacred, it's elemental, it's mystical, it's personal, it's based on intuitive nudges and psychic gifts, and yet it's still practical. It has steps, it has a method. It has all of these things that can be, I don't even want to say adopted, but looked at and integrated into our own selves. I mean, it's meant to keep you sovereign, right? But it's meant to uplift you and empower you to do that. Because we don't just rely on the steps. We rely on the circles. We rely on the moon. We rely on this shadow work that we do. We rely on finding a place of compassion. We rely upon the spell work and the ritual and our divination and our regular practices of doing these things. At some point, I realized that sobriety didn't mean the end to my power, right? I think in a lot of recovery programs, there isn't this reclamation of this internal power that we have. But sobriety as a witch means that we are able to reclaim it. So when I started to look at my recovery through that lens of witchcraft, 3.5 to 4 months into my recovery, all of the shame and the guilt started to dissolve. Not overnight, but slowly but surely. I started to integrate it. I started to understand it. I started to realize that in some way, shape, or form, it was there to protect me. I stopped trying to even guilt myself for taking so long or being in the throes of addiction for as long as I was, allowing it to get as dark and as dangerous as it did. And I started to thank spirit. I started to have gratitude even for the horrific things that I experienced. Here's a truth for you. This is both science as well as spirit. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, it can take multiple attempts, sometimes more than five, to achieve long-term sobriety, long-term recovery. It's not a single decision that we make. It's an unfolding, a becoming, a remembering, a journey that we must be on. And for us witches, that journey is often full of signs, visions, rituals, grief, death, rebirth. It's truly an alchemical process to step into who we are meant to be. So if you've relapsed, you weren't failing. You were awakening. You were burning off all of the things that weren't serve you. Because every time you question your drinking, each time you whisper, I'll try again, each time you felt like you were an absolute mess, but eventually still got up and made a little bit of magic, you were doing all of the sacred work that you had to do. Recovery as a witch is not about being perfect. It's about this alignment, bringing ourselves back into alignment. I truly believe that if I were the one to have chosen recovery, it probably would have been years ago. Recovery chose me, though. This time, this place, this moment was all how the universe intended it to be. I was ready to meet it from a place of wholeness, not shame, not fear, not punishment, but the calling of my higher self, the part of me that knew it was a huge step for me and for the work that I'm supposed to do in this world. So if you are still on the edge, my dear friend, know this: you are not late. You're right on time. I promise you. So I leave you with that, and I say, wherever you are on your recovery journey, my dear friend, whether it's simply thinking about it, 1 day, 1 year, 20 years, know that you will never be behind. You're right where you're going to need to be. Much love from me to all of you.